Hey everybody, how you doing? Tino here. A lot of people have been asking me about the sword. What's up with the sword? Give us a story about the sword. Okay, so I thought I'd do that today. I received this sword from a very good friend of mine, Mr. Noguchi. I first met Mr. Noguchi back when I first came to Japan, when I was living and teaching in Kagoshima Prefecture. Okay, now, Mr. Noguchi was a science teacher at our junior high school, and he befriended me. He took me under his wing, and he took care of me for the whole year that I was in Kagoshima. Now, he and I became very good friends, and it was surprising to me because his English was a lot better than the English teachers at school, okay? And he spoke very good English. He was sliding into 60, and he spoke of retirement a lot. So I know that he was looking forward to retire. And I remember the first time I met him, he told me about his first encounter with Americans. And it was back when he was about 7 years old, I think. And he says that he was at his grandmother's house, and there were some soldiers who walked through his village, and they had come to his grandmother's farm there and asked her for some water. And they were saying, "Mizu, mizu." So his grandmother went and got a bucket, brought some water out with a cup in it, and put it down in front of them. And then so the soldiers turned to her and said, "Nome, nome," which means drink it. So she really couldn't understand what they were talking about. They wanted the water, why would they want me to drink it, right? So Mr. Noguchi, he was a little kid, he walks over to the pail of water, takes that cup, dips it in, and he takes a drink. And he shows it to the soldiers. And he puts the cup back into the water, and he gestures to the pail and says, "Dozo." The soldiers, they were afraid that the old woman was going to poison them. That's why they wanted her to drink the water, he was telling me. So he knew. So he took it upon himself to show them that there was nothing wrong with the water. And they then proceeded to drink the water after washing the cup that young Noguchi drank from. That was the first story he told me right off the bat, right after we introduced each other. He just came out and said, "You know, the first experience that I had with Americans was that story." And I was like, damn. Is he going to tell me to F off or what? I mean, what was the purpose of the story? So, and that was it. And then I was still thinking about that story that he told me, you know, and he was so kind afterwards, right? So a couple of weeks later, I asked him about the story. I said, "Noguchi Sensei, the first time we met, you were telling me about that story with, you know, the American soldiers. I mean, what was the purpose of the story, and why are you so kind to me? I mean, I thought that you would hate Americans after something like that." And he said, I did hate Americans for a very long time, but that was then, and this is now. And I see this an opportunity to help you as an individual, okay, to learn the ways of the Japanese people, to learn what it is to be Japanese. And I see your desire to learn about Japan, so I want to be the one who's going to teach you. And he taught me so much, and every lesson that he gave me still sticks with me today. And everything that he told me had some type of profound meaning to it. Let me tell you about the sword. One night, I was at his house. I was often at his house. He invited me over for dinner a lot. And Mr. Ito loved to drink. And he didn't drink to get, you know, comfortable. He drank to get wasted. And he drank that very strong Kagoshima shochu. I think they call it Imo's shochu or something like that. But it's very strong. And he would just get wasted. And one night, his daughter and I, we were talking about the fingers on the hand. And she was saying that this was the father, this is the mother, and something like that, right? And then so Mr. Noguchi, he just blurts out, he just comes out and says, "Tino, come here." I'm like, okay. What is the most important finger on the hand? I knew that answer. It's got to be the father, right? Okay? You don't have the father, you can't use the hand. So the father is the most important finger on the hand. Okay? And then he looked at me and he says, no. He walks away into the other room and he comes back with this. And he pulls it out. And he says, no, Tino, the most important finger on the hand is the pinky. Because when you strike your enemy down, the power of that strike is going to come from the pinky. I went back to thinking about that story about the Americans in the bucket. Okay, I was like, oh, bless it, he's going to cut me down with this sword, right? And then so he was like, so this is the strongest finger in the hand. It's the pinky. This is the one that you use to strike your enemy down with. And then so afterwards, after he told me that, he put his sword away. And then he gave it to me. He said, here, I want you to have this. And I said, wow, I can't take that. I can't take your sword, Noguchi-san, I can't take that. And he says, no. He says, Tino, you are samurai. You can take this sword. And that day he dubbed me samurai. And that was like the proudest day of my life. Okay? And I have received words of praise in my 21 years of being in country. I've heard a lot of people say, Tino, あなたはね、日本人より日本人. Okay, and that would basically mean that I'm more Japanese than Japanese people. I've heard that a lot. And Victor, Hiko-san, I'm pretty sure that they've heard it as well. But I have never ever had words of praise that could top the words that Mr. Noguchi gave me that day. He said that I am samurai and I deserve to wield this sword. So that's the story of the sword. Okay? And Mr. Noguchi, he gave me some very interesting advice before I left Kagoshima to come to Kumamoto. He told me, he says, Tino, when you go to Kumamoto, it's going to be very different from living here in our rural little town in Kagoshima. You're going to see a different group of people when you go to Kumamoto. And he broke it down for me. He said there are 4 different types of Japanese people. 1, you have the Japanese who have the Yamato Damashi, which is the Japanese spirit. Okay, and they stick to the traditional ways, and they are very proud Japanese people. These are the people that you want to befriend. These are the people you want to become friends with. Group number 2. These are the average Japanese people, stand-up citizens, and they represent their country and their Japanese people accordingly. They are very, very honorable, and they do things the Japanese way. They stick to the Japanese rules, and they are very, very respected and respectful people. Group number 3. These are the Nihonjin rashikunai Nihonjin, which means these are the Japanese people who are not really Japanese. The only thing Japanese about them is that they're born here. Okay? They don't stick to the rules. They don't represent their families. They are very embarrassing, and they just do very bad things in the community. These are not the people whom you want to associate yourself with. You want to avoid these people. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I see these guys. They park in the handicapped spots, okay? They do all kinds of things. It just disrupts society. Okay, I see those guys, okay? And then he says there's one more group that I want you to watch out for. These are the Japanese people who are Gaikoku kabure. Okay, now gaikoku kabure, that was very, very difficult for me because he was explaining it to me, and he was saying that they are 外国に憧れすぎ, which means they're Japanese people who they look up to the foreigners too much. They looked up to them so much, they put them on high respect so much that they want to basically become like them. I didn't see too many of these people, so I really, I still didn't understand it at that time. But when I came to Kumamoto, I started working at this very big Eikaiwa school, and I met a lot of interesting people. And there were some English teachers who were Japanese that really, you could tell that they really didn't want to be Japanese, okay? They went to certain extents to just basically hide the simple fact that they're Japanese. I'll give you one example. There was this teacher, her name was Jennifer. Well, that's not her actual name, but that's what she told me. And I thought she was from Southern California, for the longest time, because she knew all the local joints, the hangout spots, and she knew all the good places to eat, and she was very, very familiar with Los Angeles. And I basically thought that she was second or third generation Japanese American. The way she spoke, her English was fluent. She spoke California English, so I just assumed that she was from California. I later learned that her name was Satomi, and that was a secret that she tried to keep from everyone. And I confronted her about it. I asked her, was Jennifer her middle name? And she said, no, it's a name that she got when she was living in the States. I'm like, how did you get it from, when you were living in the States? And she said that she had a boyfriend who named her Jennifer. And I was like, why would you let a boy name you Jennifer? Because she thought it was a cool name. I said, you let your boyfriend rename you? What's up with that? It seems to me like you were like a pet, like a Cocker Spaniel or something, and he named you something different. Well, why would you let him do that? He said, no, because I liked it. I didn't like the name Satomi. That's a name that your parents gave you. Why would you not like it? Well, I just didn't like it, so I asked him to give me another name. I was like, oh, so you asked him to give you another name? Oh, okay. Well, is it okay if I call you Satomi? And she was like, no, don't ever use that name, okay, in front of the other teachers. Everyone knows me as Jennifer. I'm like, well, damn, your name is Satomi. She said, don't call me that. So she was very bent out of shape about it. She was really upset, and she asked me to keep it, a secret. And I tell you, family, if she had not told me that her name was Satomi, and she's Japanese, okay, and she just went to school for a couple of years in the United States, I would have never known. I would have never, ever known. I thought she was from SoCal. But anyway, that was Jennifer, and I met a lot of teachers like that. I met teachers who would rename their students. That's kind of weird to me as well, Why would you have your students who come to class, why would you rename them? She was calling her students, by Christian names that she renamed. And there was this one kid, his name was Tsubasa, and the teacher was calling him Johnny. And he was just upset about it. He didn't like it at all. And so he went home and cried to his mother. His mother complained to the school, and there was a big meeting about it. And she was trying to defend the fact that she thought it was interesting and fun. I was like, hell no. I raised my hand and I gave her my 2 cents about it and told her this is totally wrong, because what you're doing is you're telling the kids that in order for them to learn how to speak English, they have to become something that they are not. And that was just a wrong message to convey to these young kids, right? But the Gaikoku Kabure Nihonjin, I still keep an eye out for them. I really haven't seen a lot of them, but they are out there. And you know what? As a matter of fact, if you've ever had any of your experiences like this, please share them with me, and I'd like to know more. So that's the story of the sword. Okay, Skid? All right, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the story. And if you have any comments for me, I'm pretty sure you do. Leave them down below, and I will get to them like I always do. And I love you guys, and have a pleasant week, okay? All right, bye.